Good evening. This is August 19th. It's the meeting of the Water Resources Committee. I'm Les Fox, the chair, and I am going to do a roll call for establishing a quorum for the committee. So when you hear your name called, speak out. Steve Schmidt.
Present.
Cindy Markowitz.
Present.
Brian Clemens. You're muted.
I'm present.
Thank you. And Brian Lynch.
Present.
Janet Connolly.
Present.
And Les Fox is present. John Markowitz is being admitted. If he shows up in 1 minute. John, I see your face. If you can hear me, we're just in the middle of finishing up roll call. If you are here and want to answer, I can ask if you're here. John Markowitz. I will. I'll note that we do have a quorum. John is here, but he'll be speaking up later. So we do have a quorum. I did announce that I'm present, I think. So first thing to do is to welcome our new member, Cindy Markowitz, who I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know. So welcome, Cindy. And we have another new member, Sam Anderson, who is not able to make the meeting tonight. We also have a new Finance Committee liaison who will not be attending. They are unable to make it tonight. So Kashava is now going to be replaced by Mr. Scopen, I think. Anyway, I don't want to waste any more time talking, so I'm going to introduce Emily DeFranco here from Weston and Sampson. They've delivered what they're calling the final draft of the Water Resources Report they've been working on. And so we'll go over that tonight and have a discussion and talk about next steps. So Emily, I'm going to turn this over to you. You are a co-host, so you can share screen and whatnot.
Sure. Hi, Cindy and Ralph. I haven't met you either. I've seen everybody else so far, and I've met everyone else. So nice to meet you too. I'm Emily DeFranco. For you two that I haven't met, I'm the project manager for this project with Weston and Sampson. And I've been working with Kevin McKinnon, who could not be here tonight, who is one of our technical leaders and vice principals essentially at Weston and Sampson to complete this report. So the final draft that we sent you all basically has all of the pieces that we discussed or that we had planned on having in this report. And it also addressed all of the comments that we had received to date, which are documented in the back as an appendix. So you can see what was addressed, how it was addressed. If we didn't address it, why not? Some of the times it was the reasons we didn't address something. It's just one comment would have been a whole nother project that was just sort of outside of what we were able to do here. Mm-hmm. But we tried to address as much as we could within the confines of what this project is. Right. So that was sort of the process. You're still, just to sort of, this is not the final, but any comments that we receive at this point, we're hoping they're more sort of on the, if there's something glaringly wrong that we, misrepresented for your town, please let us know. But it would be nice, it would be preferred not to get comments on the sections we've already done, unless there's some like glaring error, as I noted. And really just sort of more of the high level at this point than some of the detailed comments, because it does take a long time to address the comments and incorporate them. And I feel like the way we presented this report to you sort of chapter at a time or a couple chapters at a time allowed for that more in-depth review to sort of happen along the way. And I like to do that anyway, just to make sure that the project is going in the direction we want it to go in, and that the final review is not a heavy lift for everybody, and just gets us closer to the action of what we need to do next. So I feel like we're at that place. I can share the report. Maybe I'll do that just so we have it up. So if anyone has any questions, I did not make a formal presentation for this, as I figured I would be doing that for wherever you would like us to present this, to the select board or to whomever. And I wanted to make sure, as part of this conversation, Les and I were chatting about this earlier, to get from you all what the major pieces you would like presented to the select board or the planning board, wherever we're going. What sort of stands out to you as the most important? I can provide a summary of this and do the presentation, no problem. But if I'd like the input from you all sort of on what focus, what we're looking towards from them. So yeah. So that's really, I'm not planning to walk through the report. I'm happy to do that. There is an executive summary. It's a 2-page executive summary at the beginning. If there's anything that anybody wants me to talk about, I'm happy to, or if there are any initial questions or thoughts anybody wants to share, we can just sort of open it to that.
Yeah, I did not give this the careful attention it deserves, although I did at least skim all of it, and it looks very good to me. A lot of the things that should have been there in the earlier drafts are now here, and I think some of the ambiguities are cleared up in this current version. So I thank you for that. I do want to point out to members that the appendix that Emily mentioned that lists the comments that were sent in by all of us are in a table and what action was taken on them. So that's very useful. There's also a good appendix on PFAS. So it's a nice place to get acquainted to the world of PFAS and get yourself educated or overeducated. I don't know how much you've been exposed to that. In general, I don't have a lot of detailed questions right now, but I do have one. I actually wanted to print those pages out so I could refer to them. But Emily, if you want to do it with me, let's see. I don't know what page it is. Table 5.13 and table 5.14, right next to each other. I may have this wrong, but it looked to me that they didn't agree on the total withdrawals for the town. I may have just not paid careful attention, but if you could check that, I'd appreciate it.
This August withdrawal, this one?
Is that table 5.13?
14 and 13?
Yeah. If you go, I can't read those fine prints.
Here, I can make it bigger. Hold on. I'm just gotta find.
Or go back to a single page, maybe.
Yeah. Here we go.
Right. So that one says that, if I understand it, groundwater withdrawals, which I assume means just Boxborough.
So this is for the entire basin. So
okay, so it includes more than Boxborough share.
So we broke these up into, based on comments from last time and then us sort of going back in and taking another look, we were able to estimate the groundwater withdrawal at the basin level, and then we also had estimated it at the town level as well, and then with the population projections, what that might be in the future. But we wanted to to cover the question of these basins go outside of the town and water doesn't care about town boundaries. So what do we do about that? So this is basin wide. And then there's a section for town wide as well.
Okay, so let's go to table 5.14 and see what that number says.
So this table has the same groundwater withdrawals for the basin.
Yes,
and then it has here the town,
and that's the town. Okay, that's where I got.
And then we have the future demand as well for that we had estimated for the town.
Okay, that's great, and that's based on our sort of 27% share or whatever, right?
And the biggest thing is to see that the recharge rates are much higher than numbers. So but we broke this down more as basin level, town level, and then we tried to summarize it and it's a very hard thing to summarize because it's a lot of numbers and it's confusing.
Yeah.
And so it's in the text, and then we try to pull out, important pieces,
Yes.
as well. So that's why
Yeah.
they're different. And I think it would make, it'll make more sense in the text as well. As
Yeah.
you,
Well, no, I knew I was missing something obvious, but thanks for
yeah,
pointing me at it.
yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Good. Okay. Well, I think to me, the biggest takeaway and most important outcome of this work kind of resonates with what a lot of people felt all along but couldn't prove, which is that we do seem to have enough water. In fact, I'm not aware of any evidence of running out in the sense that it's harder to find water when people drill private wells and so on. But what you've done is shown that the average recharge rate far exceeds our demand rate on average, and it's projected to do so for quite a while.
Right.
So quantity seems in good shape, which leads to the next obvious step. Well, what about quality? And that is in your recommendations as a thing to look at next, perhaps, and so on and so on. There are lots of good recommendations. In fact, maybe if you're looking for at least my suggestion, maybe it's good to just go over the bullet points in the recommendations and go back and go from there.
Sure. Does anybody have anything they want to say before we do that? We can always go back and forth too. So I'm flexible. Maybe that. These also, I wanted to note, these were our initial recommendations, but we are happy to add other priorities that you all have as well. So that's why, that's another reason why I didn't just say this is the final report, here you go. This is based on what, Kevin and I have, like, after we discussed this report, as we, kind of went through the whole thing, these are what we would recommend as next steps, but this doesn't mean that these are the next steps.
Right. Right. That's your recommendation.
They're happy to take away or, add more in as you all decide. And that could be something you discuss amongst yourselves over the next week or two or however long, and let me know, and we can add other, because it is a good place. A report like this is a good place to have concrete action items that you can then bring for funding somewhere. That's part of it. So we want to make sure those are captured from your view as well.
Appreciate that.
Emily,
John, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, this is Janet.
Hi, Janet.
I was going to call on John. He has his hand up. I don't see your hand up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm sorry. Say that, John.
So, Emily, I thought this was a fantastic report. Can you hear me? Because my microphone may not be working.
Yep. No, we can hear you.
Your lips aren't moving, but we can hear you.
You're frozen, but your voice is coming through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's amazing how I can do that. I'm throwing my voice over the internet. But I did go through the whole document, as you can see, with all my tabs. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. One of the things that I found interesting, there's two things. I found a lot interesting, but I think part about the environmental assessment, the risk assessment, that to me was very interesting, because you looked at the number of properties with septic systems, and that's very important for our future water. Okay, in terms of, we're talking about quality. Well, that has get ready to present this to the public. Many of the graphs, a number of the graphs, can we get those larger so that you can actually try to figure out where the roads are and the parcels and how the colors are correlate, so that someone could look at that and say, oh, well, that's my neighborhood. Okay. And that's my question.
I
was just talking about the
environmental risk assessment section.
John seems to be having audio or connectivity issues, but queuing off what he's saying, I don't know, underneath the graphs that you're talking about, there's a set of GIS data layers. Perhaps if we could hand us the right layers, we could maybe add the layers that represent our roads and do some of that work ourselves, since doing all that wasn't part of your original.
Yeah,
remit.
I would say that tends to, I'm happy we can hand over all the shape files that you need. That is fine. Anything that we've created, that will be part of the final package that we
Okay, all right,
if that's enough. The other thing is there you Les at least has the
okay,
word increment, and you can make those bigger because they're just inserted
okay,
in. So if you want to do that as well, you can. Um, does that
okay.
sound? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll have access. So I'm making a note about the shape files for the final.
Yeah. I mean, our town planner may be able to help us with that sort of thing. So,
Yep.
Janet, you have your hand up. And Steve has his
I'm
hand
there.
up. What happened,
I'm
Janet? What
here.
happened to your hand? It went away. You
I
still
took it
have a
down
question?
because you called on me, Les.
No, I see it.
Um, so just following up with what John was saying, in the appendix that lists out the septic system, there's a table, and it's unclear how the table was organizing, what the organizing structure was for that information.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, I know that we wanted to remove street numbers.
Right. So we
But
noted that in the appendix that in response to your comment about that. Those are from basically the Title V records, and so we would have to physically go in and to redact everything. We're happy to take out the appendix, or you all are welcome to take out the appendix as well and just not include that if you want to do that. But we don't have that as an Excel table. It was built from sort of the database of the Title V records. So it's not as simple as just removing a column, I guess and that's what we noted when we responded to that comment. I think it's okay to remove that as an appendix, but we didn't want to remove that as an appendix before we heard from you all.
I'm not asking, I'm just trying to understand it. I'm not asking to remove what I'm trying to get at ultimately is, well, I had a couple of questions about the table. And so I understand that it came to you in a certain way, so you don't have the freedom to move things around.
Yep.
But if we were to include something like that,
Getting to the table so that we can know, so we can be clear about what we're talking about. I can't remember which appendix that is.
D.
It's D. Okay, I think that's before this. Sorry for the nauseating moving. I think it's this one. This table.
Well, let me
This
see what
one.
you're sharing.
This is the Title V.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yep.
So I know this is coming from other people who are compiling it, is what you're telling us, and that's fine. The the thought I had about this table, and again, this might be committee level work that we do, but what wasn't clear was whether maybe some of these entries were first entered because there was an issue, and then they were entered again in the ledger, so to speak, because something else was done on the same property.
Okay.
And so it's like, oh, is the problem as big as we think it is? Or maybe it's smaller because some of these entries resolve what was originally entered. You know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. Absolutely. Yep, that's clear. Yeah, we just were pulling the septic for these are the tier 1 properties, so they're the ones in the environmentally sensitive areas. And so yes, that's possible that happened as well. That this is the inspection replaced the problem inspection from before.
And so is there enough information in the unredacted version of this that would allow us to knit together if it's X Middle Street and X Middle Street, oh, that's actually one location. Is there a way for us to know that, or does it not allow us to see that kind of thing?
I think I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Janet.
Okay.
Just because I did not assemble these tables. I've reviewed them, but I don't know. I want to see the initial version of this.
Sure.
And
I guess where I'm headed with it is what would be, one way to use the information that could be useful would be to go a step further in terms of how we present it, and maybe present it by drainage basin. So that way you're like, okay, do we have a problem in one area, or more likely in one area, or not at all? Things happen, systems are in old houses, or, you know, whatever. But I don't know that. But I thought, oh, we could know it, maybe, because I don't know what this data set has. But I thought, you know, like in South Acton, right? What happened was, all of a sudden, all of these systems are failing. You can see the flows in the river, and it's like, okay, yeah, we have a problem in this part of town. And so then they do something about that part of town. And that might not be the story for Boxborough. It's a different conditions altogether. There's not a river that runs through it, right? So, but that would be a good finding as well, right? That would be something people would want to know about. Or if there is some area of town where it's really high ledge and things don't perk well, or it's really close to a wetland and there's issues, then that would be a pointer towards something to just put on our list of, let's revisit this, let's update this, you know, in the future as a recommendation. So that's where I was headed with that, all of those ideas.
Well, let me ask a question on your question. So is your interest here in not revealing the identity of properties that might have a problem, which might have been fixed later, or is it just in figuring out how to make the best use of this information for planning what to do next?
Yeah, so it's the latter, less. I mean, I'm more interested in when there's a table of data that it should tell a story, you know, on its own. And this is an appendix. So appendices are where you just put your data. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
And so I you know, not a criticism at all, but when I saw it, I thought, oh, how are these organized? It's not by year, it's not by location, it's not by street, it's not alphabetical, it's, you know, and so, and that's what made me look at it and think, oh, I think we have some things that got resolved, and it'd be better to kind of know that, so that if the problem is not as big as we think, that's important. And then if we really want to use this to group it by drainage basin, then we would have to organize the data in a different way than what we currently have. So that would take some effort. Maybe that is a committee level activity, but only if the information is in the underlying data set that you're relying on.
That's it. That makes sense. And I will say that towns have used this like as a starting point to create like an actual septic system inventory, which then, you know, it would basically, that gives you that ability to sort of track what's happened at a specific property over time electronically versus having everything in a file somewhere in the town offices, or hopefully getting a Title V inspection upon property transfer. So that's, you know, there's a way to be able to use this that was sort of beyond what we were doing here. But it starts like, it sets you up to eventually be able to have sort of an electronic tracking system down the road.
Okay, right. If we can maybe squeeze a little bit more relationship information, but in this flat file first, and then we could have an electronic file.
Yeah, I can find out what else is in this and what was taken out. Okay.
Okay.
Well, one of the messages or recommendations in the report is that the town should encourage people to do regular septic system inspections. And as we all know, people are not typically very regular about that, even to the point of pumping their systems.
Right.
I know we personally pump every year. But many people let it go for multiple years before they think of pumping. So basic educational things like that, I think information like this can be useful in terms of identifying what people should do, or in some cases maybe already have done. We don't know without knowing the answer to your questions. So anyway, let me shut up a minute, and Steve's hand's been up a while. So Steve and then Cindy.
The report says that we have abundant water in the ground, but one of our solutions is to pump water in from outside, from Littleton and Acton. I'm not sure this is part of the report, but is that a good idea? Is that a good plan to do that, to pump water in from outside if we have an abundance right here?
Are you referring to just the Littleton water line extension or something else?
There's that, and I think they have another existing one, and the Acton Water District pumps the water into somewhere.
Well,
But
there's
we're
one
pumping
place where Acton Water District is delivering water to Joyce Industrial Park, and that's been a historic case. That's been there for decades.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering about pumping water in from outside if we already have plenty here.
I
Maybe that's
didn't
not part of
actually.
the report.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with where that idea came from in the report. It's
I
No,
don't think it might not be.
yeah. I think what he's saying, Les, is that the report is showing that there's enough water in the ground. So is it necessary to pump it in from outside of town? Is that what you're saying, Steve?
That's basically it, yeah.
Yeah. I
uh,
think that's a question that is outside of what I can tell you. It's that you
Okay.
have enough water in some ways, but those decisions to have put those connectors in came from some other, you know,
Oh,
sometime
yeah,
from Kevin I could ask Kevin that of how that came to be, but I feel like Les is involved just as much with the Littleton Boxborough project, so would know more of that history of how it got to that.
yeah, but the other ones that are even more historic, the uh, Joyce Industrial Park, the Meanmore Apartments, which are directly connected to the Littleton Water. That was all done by the contractor who developed those properties. Nothing to do with the town.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No,
Private arrangement.
I'm
Mhm.
just wondering, but we are extending a big line from Littleton now.
Well, that is with full knowledge and participation and support by the town, but that's to address a very specific problem in a very specific area. It's not intended to say this is a general solution we want to pursue.
Could I speak, Les?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, is it a good strategy?
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Brian, and then Cindy.
Well, I think Steve, to answer your question, the question isn't the amount of water. The question is the quality of the water.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
water that is being supplied is highly treated, and it meets very specific standards for what is considered to be safe drinking water. And that is
Right, yeah.
why it's being imported, is because the groundwater is contaminated and does not meet those criteria.
Mhm.
So in order to have people drinking safe water, we worked with Littleton to bring that safe water into the town to alleviate the
Oh,
problem.
yeah, I get that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a quantity issue, it's a
Yeah.
quality issue, right? Obvious thing, but thanks for making it clear, Brian.
Mhm. Yeah.
They have plenty of water that's bad.
We do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're connected to their aquifer, so they may be actually pumping some water out from our ground. Maybe I got that wrong.
Sorry,
I'm
Steve.
sorry.
We share an aquifer with Littleton and with
Yes.
Acton.
Mhm.
A lot of the water that comes
Yeah.
from Littleton is part of water that is in the zone 2
Right.
that
Yeah.
charges those wells from Boxborough.
Yeah, the zone two is for the Clappic wells go all the way up to Applewood, basically, right? I think.
Well, that's Acton, but
Yeah, that's
Littleton
Acton,
goes
yes.
all the way through Beaver Valley.
You're right.
Okay.
So, Cindy,
Yeah, hi, everybody. Thanks for including me. I haven't had a chance to really digest this report. I was just going to follow up on a comment Janet made because I was searching for the appendix to see what it described, and I realized now the cover pages of the two appendices are swapped.
Okay.
So C is D and D is C. So that confused me now that I figured that out, because I was trying to understand where was the reference to this appendix and what were we trying to learn from it. But now I see there's a whole bunch of text that describes it. I just had the wrong appendix. So I will continue to listen, but I just want to point that out. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll fix that. I apologize. Just gonna go back to the beginning. Any other thoughts or comments? I'll go back down to those next steps, Les, if you want.
Do we, well, in terms of that whole water quantity versus quality question, I don't disagree with what was said. Does this report, without doing an assessment, opine on the reduction in availability of water over time because of draws from Acton and Littleton, which could increase over time and likely will based on their development plans.
Well,
Go ahead, Les.
with
Yeah.
respect to Littleton, their maximum withdrawal is fixed by the IMA.
Or that one water line. They
For that
could,
one
they could
water
draw
line.
water for other things in other areas.
There's nothing to prevent Acton from pumping more water out of their wells, which happen to pull from a zone of influence or an IWPA that extends well into Boxborough. That's just water wars, right? So, but I'm not aware that it's causing any issues now. Brian may know, but if it should become a problem in the future, we'll have to address it.
Yeah.
But this report, to answer your question, this report does not opine on that. I don't think it does anywhere in there.
Not specifically. I mean, it's, you know, we noted that this is where we don't know anything about beyond what we could, you know, estimate from the Water Management Act, you know, withdrawal methodology that we used for the basins outside of the town, you know, that we didn't do any sort of, you know, population projections for outside of Boxborough. We didn't, you know, do any, you know, property by property assessments for drinking water demand. It was all sort of just, you know, what you've seen with how we've calculated things for the basin versus the town. So, you know, we can show in the tables, we show that the recharge is still orders of magnitude higher than the current withdrawal for all the basins, and that includes, you know, parts of other towns. But
Right.
it's not something that we can say without doing any sort of a study about the, you know, available land for development in those towns and any sort of, you know, population projections and what that might look like in the future.
Yes,
Right.
that's
About
confident.
Change.
Les, I'm just going to talk to Emily. So I'm not suggesting that we do that, but there could be a statement about what we didn't do because it's beyond the scope of this work, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely beyond the scope. I just want, but someone could ask us, or it could be part of, it may be too in the weeds, but someone could ask it at a public forum, right? And
Mhm.
we'd want to be really clear that this is what we asked, you know, you to evaluate. You did that, and I think it's a great report.
Yeah.
I just want to have, you know, official technical words that we can reply to people if they do ask us about concerns about Acton drawing more water, or Littleton putting another well in another area that could draw more water from the same
Yep.
location where the extension line is. You know, we just don't know. And those are
Yep.
uncertainties, and we don't have to do every single what if that could happen ever. That's not what we're talking about
I get
either.
you. I understand exactly what you're saying. We can add in like a couple lines in that section, and I think that would cover what you're saying, Janet. And that's an easy fix. So
Yeah, and if we're going to do that, Emily, it might be good to put in a few words about who else gets to chime in on that, like the Water Management Act people, about pumping cross basins and so forth, because there are limits to what one can do, but it's not clear where the rubber hits the road first.
Yeah.
But we don't know, as someone said, we just don't know how much is action actually withdrawing from recharge areas lying within the political boundaries of Boxborough, just because that's where the water and the aquifer lies. We don't know what that volume is. I don't think we do. We could probably guesstimate it, but it would just be wild guessing.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying, Janet, makes sense. I mean, we put some caveats in there about we based all of our estimates, even in, you know, Boxborough, on current zoning, and if that changes, then our, you know, we have to caveat these things just because this is a planning level report, you know, and we have to make sure that you're right, that people aren't saying, well, why, you know, that these are things that need to be considered in the future or may become an issue in the future. So that's worth putting in. So we'll do that for sure.
Great. Yeah. Brian Clements has his hand up. Hi, Brian.
Yeah, hi, Emily. Were you able to say anything about climate change, how that might affect recharge rates? Because the Sustainability Committee is still claiming that we need to conserve water.
We did not. We can add in a line or two about, similar to what we were just saying about, you know, in response to what Janet was saying, we can add in anything like that's an easy add in that, you know, that it could change it this way, and we didn't account for climate change for this, but it could be accounted for, and this may be something that, you know, sorry, I'm just making myself a note as I'm talking. So that's, we can add something like that in if you all feel like that would be helpful.
Yep, that would be helpful.
Sure.
It would, yeah. I mean, people sort of expect there to be something about climate change in there. You know, remember Charlene Golden, rest in peace. Her simple motto was, the rain comes down, it falls in Boxborough, and we use what we get. That's it. We have nothing else. And but that's essentially it. We're fortunate that our recharge rate seems to be well in excess of what we consume, but that could change if somebody starts pumping madly on the borders, or if there's a lot of development, or if climate changes in a big way.
Yep.
Probably I don't know, my mouth, just off the top of my head, probably the biggest development threat might be from the bordering areas in Acton and Littleton, which are growing strongly. Harvard doesn't seem to have a lot of intensive development that would affect us, although all things are possible. But yeah, things that would change consumption outside of us would affect us, because these basins are all interconnected. Now, as somebody pointed out, it might have been Brian Lynch, that, you know, a study looking at hydrogeological modeling across the multiple basins and the adjoining towns would be a very complex project and expensive, but that would be the logical technical step to try to quantify that and say, well, how much of the water that Acton is consuming is actually coming from our land, you know? You know, I just think of those old westerns about water wars, you know.
I think the one thing we have to consider that's a little bit different than what this report has been aimed at is that when the more water is extracted, whether it's our own water or others, it's the quality of the water that's recharged that begins to affect the overall water quality in the basins.
Correct.
And this is why the quantity is one thing, but quality is a whole different issue. And it has to be addressed section by section, because the way things are, the more you load the water from septic systems and from other things, you need a lot of land to dilute that, because there's certain parameters in the water that need to be kept below drinking water standards. Right.
Yeah, conservation is a good thing, and protecting the source is another very good thing. That comes through pretty clearly in the report, but it wouldn't hurt to emphasize it as often as we can.
The quality piece is
the quality piece.
I mean, that's right here in the summary. The quantity seems good.
It's right there.
Further analysis of the quality is needed. So you know, and I can see if there's other places to add that. I know it's in there a few times, that this is that focus. And we do talk about things that could impact the quality, but you know, there's no obviously real looking at the quality for this.
Right. And I'm going to get to Cindy, but first I want to say we just passed it briefly. That one thing that we don't get into in the report is, so what's the impact on the commercial development? And there's no demand projection for the commercial, because we don't have any good data on what to project at this point. But this is something that I'm sure the planning board is going to want to think about in terms of what's likely to happen, and when must we start being concerned about it, and what do we want to do about it from the planning perspective in terms of development, which would increase more demand on the available water in the ground. So, Cindy.
Yeah, Les, I guess you're kind of reading my mind. So I'm looking at this report from planning board perspective, as I'm a member of that board. And we were very enthusiastic that town was undertaking this project. Kind of getting back to both themes, conservation, which we were just speaking about, and also this commercial development piece. You know, I think it would be helpful to have, you know, some area to address conservation and best management practices, perhaps. And again, I haven't read this cover to cover, so perhaps it's already addressed, but I would love to see in the summary and recommendations some, you know, reference about best management practices. When we grant permits, you know, we do have some conditions that we generally put in our decisions, but commercial development and expansion in town, would be useful to have, like I said, two themes. One about, I think there's value in having a conservation recommendation in here in some way, and also something that references best management practices for water withdrawal and water disposal. I mean, I think I might be simplifying it too much, but everyone's going to go to the recommendations, and it would be useful, I think, for our board to have something to point to that is supported by data. So, again, I'm speaking in high generalities here, but we could certainly would love to have sort of a document that can support some of the goals that we're trying to achieve and in sort of simplified form, if that makes sense.
Right. I think there are other agencies that have best management practices or notions that are similar that might speak to these kinds of concerns. I can't think of who there are off the top of my head. From the conservation committee, conservation community, Board of Health.
Well, I mean, yeah, Board of Health does, Stormwater Management Handbook does. I mean, there are areas, but
any flow over 2,000 gallons in wastewater flow, no matter what's its origin, is required to have treatment in the town of Boxborough. Right. I don't mean septic system treatment. I mean an active treatment facility.
Right. Now, so on the commercial side, large wells and wastewater treatment facilities, I mean, the planning board has plenty of opportunities to try to impose some best management practices on the developers and so forth. But when it comes to private homes, there are limited means, I think, and under the way we currently operate.
There are some homes in this town that already have private wastewater treatment plants.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to, from a municipal government's point of view, to require people to do things about private wells, other than it's already in Title V, right? But maybe that's an avenue to work on. Maybe there should be.
We're in the process of rewriting the well regulations for this.
Right. So that's something that I don't know. I think there's maybe a mention of that in the report. I don't remember.
I'm wondering if it would be helpful for you all. I don't know how often you meet, Les. Is it every month? Every 2 weeks?
Yeah, we've been meeting once a month.
Okay. Well, or maybe just through communication internally, for you all to come up with, build off maybe of these 5 recommendations and, determine if you want to add some more items to the list. That would be helpful, like Cindy was mentioning, for, from the planning board perspective, or what you would like to see. Because we could, I think that there were probably any type of report like this where we're talking about water management for a town, we could probably come up with 50 recommendations. We tried to break it down, right? But that's why I started this with saying these were just sort of the 5 that rose up to us. But maybe this is an internal discussion for, even if it's a circulated email that you guys add to come to a conclusion of what you'd like to see in this list of recommendations, and then get that back to me. Or I'm happy to have another discussion about it at some point before it gets to that final presentation time. So I don't know, that's just a thought, because I feel like there are things I don't know about within the town, especially with the internal workings of the town, that that you all are much more familiar with. So maybe having that discussion and then circling me back in at some point might be a good way to move that forward.
Yeah, that's a good idea, rather than try to solve that now.
Yeah, because there'll be things that come up after this call too, so I wouldn't want this to be sort of the final, final list.
Well, my plan here is that since we're reviewing this final draft tonight, and it's already been distributed somewhat. Brian Lynch distributed at the Board of Health, and so tonight I'm going to distribute it to all the boards, the select board, planning board, and so forth, and hope that they actually read it, especially just the executive summary, just to get a handle on what's going on. And I think that may stimulate some conversations and some feedback that we can bring back to our discussions here and communicate them back to Emily if we see obvious places where we might make some slight adjustments.
Sure.
I think it's in the messaging and how it's presented, not that there needs to be a lot of new work done in terms of investigations and so forth.
Yep.
There's plenty of opportunity here to do very elaborate and expensive studies. I don't know if we want to do that. I think my gut feel is there's a lot of payback in just basic education about what
Oh yeah,
people have.
septic system pumping, getting your well
Yeah.
tested, telling people how to do it. You know, less when we were talking earlier, my in-laws didn't know they had a septic system for years.
I've heard that story. That
And I
that happens all the time. It
And
turns
I
out.
was like, they never had it pumped. They just didn't even think about what happened when they
Right.
flushed the toilet. And it made my brain, I couldn't even understand how that was true because they are educated, and they just
I know.
it never entered their mind. They had a private well on the property and I was just like, oh my God. So I think that it's just lost on some people, and so there's a lot that can happen with especially targeted education, whether it's for the town or it's in areas where that there might be some it might be part of one of those environmental risk areas that are discussed, but everybody could benefit from getting some education in some way and what that might look like. I think that should always be part of a next step. But like Les is saying, there's a million things that you can do. Some of them could cost millions of dollars. Some of them can be relatively cheap, and so what's the right way to move this forward and that's most effective and you feel like is actually getting this message out there and doing some good for your town. And that's, we're happy to help shape this to fit that and fit your vision of where this goes.
Right. I mean, I'll just make up something off the top of my head. I don't think the report, it talks about basins that are have more demand on them than others, but I don't think the report really identifies any basins that are unduly stressed
none of even the most stressed
Right.
is order of magnitude.
Right.
Fine.
So everybody seems to have a safe margin, but nonetheless, the planning board might, and the Board of Health working with them, might start thinking about what would we do if there was such an area that emerged. It could be a quality issue, and then what would we
More
do?
likely, I think in this town, just like it's with the Littleton Boxborough connector, it will be, and that's not just this town, lots of towns. It's a water quality issue as they sort of become known.
Yep.
Then you have to figure something else out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Brian Clements.
Well, I think it's important to remember that the build-out analysis only includes zoning by right. It does not include the development of any of the large properties in town, and that's standard procedure for a water demand projection. But we have to remember that.
Yes. In fact, and we have quite a bit of land. It's in Chapter 61, for example, generally in the Ag Res District, which could be developed into residential units. I don't recall offhand whether there's an estimate of what there. I think that is probably included in the build-out analysis. What would the potential be? But doesn't come to mind whether it's actually
back through. The build out typically is not going to tell you much about what can happen on a residential property,
right?
Because we don't know what could go in there, and that's why that's not included in the
right.
Because who knows, right? It could be a facility that needs a lot of water. It could be one that doesn't, and it's really hard to. There's no good way to predict that. Whereas you can predict certain things for residential properties based on zoning in a different way. So
Well, generally, you don't include properties that have to get permits to be developed.
Right.
You can't assume that a property is going to get the permit to develop it, and so it's not generally
not included. Yeah, and that's just sort of how these things tend to go.
But we can't lose sight of the fact that there are some very large properties that could be developed.
Yes, some of them are A&R pieces too that don't require much permitting. So I don't know, we have to think about that. Maybe it's not something the planning board wants to chime in on in terms of what might be missing here from this analysis in terms of things we should be worrying about or maybe not worrying about, depending. Again, I go back to the obvious thing is education is the key thing here, I think. Welcome to Boxborough. You have a private well and you have your own septic system. Did you know that? My fantasy is that when people come from town, from moving in from the city, that they're handed a brochure that explains all this. There was a thought at one time of doing that. I don't know that it ever happened.
Les, can I
Cindy?
just ask about the commercial development? Is it possible to run a sensitivity analysis and just do some what if scenarios and, low, medium, high kind of numbers to add to that table?
It's not under this scope. It's not. That's something that we could do. We could put that in as a recommendation. I think that would be worthwhile. We had a recommendation in here about doing something like that for the commercial properties, and then we took it out. I wanted to sort of gauge interest instead of throwing that. That is sort of one I wasn't sure if that was too much to put in there. But there's ways to do it. But there's no, it's not as, all of this is planning. So it's never, it's like a model.
Right, but because
perfect, but it's something. So I would say that one might be worth putting back into the recommendations to do sort of an analysis of commercial properties potential.
Because of the large tracts of land, if we were just sort of already somewhat built out and there was minimal, moderate amount of additional, but we have a good chunk of, office park that's not developed. And so I think that would be a useful thing, but I understand if it's not in the scope, but.
Yep. No, I would suggest if you do, I don't know what the process you all will do to sort of discuss these recommendations, and add to them. I think that would be a good one. I made a note of it too. So if it's not, I'll make sure to circle back, but to add that in.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Lots of possible scenarios.
But the recommendations list is a good place to put all those things because we want to, there are other things that we could take any one of the studies we've already done and go further. We could do new studies and water quality studies, whatever it is. There's a million things that can be done. But having a list of the things that are the most important here then become action items that are easier to fund later.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's identified as something that the town wants to do. So we want to have as many of those in this recommendation list as possible.
Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. And we should be thinking about at some point, if we want to do more along this line, that we need to make a plan and a proposal to take to the town to fund some additional studies that would produce certain results, and got to lay that out in a way that makes sense to people, that it's worth doing and why. And right now there's just too many possibilities. I don't think we haven't even prioritized them. Like, what would you spend your money on first, for example, right?
Yep.
I'd go for the low hanging fruit, education. But anyway, just my opinion.
Nice.
Never overlook the opportunity, right? So any other thoughts, folks? Emily, I think you got the sense that we think this is a very nice report, very detailed, very thorough. Thanks to you and Kevin for all your work on this.
Thanks. I recognize the limitations. Kevin does too. I think planning exercises makes Kevin's head hurt because he just wants to do everything. He's like, well, and I was like, no, we're just talking about what we couldn't. So he doesn't. So I had to pull him back many times, but it's frustrating because there's you want to go deeper on everything, of course, and so I recognize the limitations of planning, but this is a good starting point if you think of it like that. And then we build from this but you want to obviously target how you're building from this by taking a minute, looking at it and determining which path to go down. And that's where I think some of those internal discussions, maybe some input from the select board and the planning board, that's really how we can target how this, the finished piece looks. So it cues you up to be able to do all the things that, that make the most sense.
Yeah. Lots of food for thought.
Is most of this data pretty stable? In other words, we don't need to repeat this report in 10 years. We feel pretty good that this is going to last us, at least the data you've gathered.
I think you can always look at the withdrawals easily. When we did the basin scale withdrawals, or just, through the, I'm blanking on the name of the website because it's dark out and my brain starts shutting down. But it's in the report, sort of how we estimated the basin withdrawals. Those are sort of posted all the time. So that's something that can be updated, or you can just kind of keep your pulse on. The build out is the build out, and it doesn't include some of the larger empty properties, but it is the resident, that's especially for residential, that's kind of where things can go. Unless your zoning changes. If that were to happen, we note that in the report sort of as if zoning changes at any point, you're going to want to think about taking a look at something like this again. So that caveat's in there, just, that's based on what it is. So I wouldn't say it necessarily needs to be done that often. But I do think, just kind of keeping, if anything major changes, or you're starting to see very large developments going in when you weren't expecting them or something like that, then that might be worth at least assessing part of it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Yep. All right. So Les, before we're done though, I know that you want the final report to be presented at least to I believe the select board. Is that still the plan? And do you have
Yes, thank you for that's what I was going to bring up. So what do we do next? And how do we time all this? I'm going to be on vacation for a couple of weeks, and it's that time of the season. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is September 16th. And then we have to think about when we have you come and present something, which I say can't be everything.
Yeah.
So the select board. Well, my plan is to put it as a presentation to the select board, advertised well in advance, which looks like that probably will line up with their schedule at the end of October, after there's a special town meeting that everyone's very consumed with getting ready for. So I don't think we'll get any attention units from the select board before then, frankly. Okay. So my plan to try to work towards that date. And so I just want to see whether that is consistent with your expectations and your schedule, that we could work out a date in that rough time frame. Will give us time to kick this around, come up with some questions of our own, and
sure.
That you guys.
October 27th, I think that's the date, because I saw it on your agenda, and that's I'm available that night to, I don't know if to come or to, I don't know what those meetings are, if they're virtual or in person, but I'm happy to come down.
Right. So that would be as a select board that we invite as many people as we can, and let everybody know.
Are they in person, Les, or are they virtual?
They're both. The select board does still meet in person, and their meetings are recorded. They go out on BXB-TV and so on.
Okay. So that's should I prepare to come in person, I guess is the question.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
That's fine.
And I hope members of this committee would make the effort to be there as well. So.
Sure. So then it sounds like that's fine. I mean, that gives us 2 months or so to sort of come up with a final message that we want to present, that, including the recommendations and things like that. So, I know you're going to be gone for a few weeks less, and I can start assembling things like the shape files to transfer to the town, look at some of the small items that we talked about today to add those in. But I would say, what is a realistic time to sort of get your final thoughts? Again, just sort of those if there's other high level thoughts, high level, like we were talking about tonight, and that list of recommendations, how you'd like that to look.
Right.
And it could be, depending on it, if you wind up with 10 items, you would probably want to consider ranking them, at least from highest to lowest of what you'd like to see. 5 items probably doesn't have to be quite as ranked, in my experience. But when you start getting to be a really long list, you want to start thinking about like putting priority to them.
Sure.
I don't know if probably even the end of September would be fine. It's not going to take, if we can get all that information from you before then, by the end of September, I'm just throwing out that date because I know there's a lot of coordination and a lot of people that gives us a little bit of time to just, incorporate the new recommendations and any other large things that sort of came up, and then get everything back. Because I would assume for the select board would then need to get the final report a week or two before the presentation.
Well, I think that what we're doing tonight is good enough for them to know what to expect. I mean, it'll evolve somewhat, but it won't change in a major way. Sure. So as I say, I'm going to get it distributed out to the world. And we'll be having a meeting on September 16th. So I'm hoping, folks, that what you all can do with me is between now and then collect our thoughts. I'll aggregate them, and then on our meeting on the 16th, we can discuss them as a group. Sure. What's our priority? What do we want to do? What do we want to give back to Emily as her next step to do and add to the report as the final version of the report.
Yeah. It would be the finalist of them.
Yeah, it'll be it. That'll be the wrap, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And then that would be the basis of you making a presentation. Now I'm just putting out October 27th as the best guess right now. Things could always change on the town calendar, but they have fixed the special town meeting date. So I think that's probably a good date, but we don't want to try to do it earlier. That would just
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. And I can, if I can get those, so sometime in September, like after you meet, get those comments back to me with the list of recommendations. We can wrap up the report, send it to you, and I can also draft a version of the PowerPoint and send that to you all. And
right,
if you then have any comments on that, you can let me know.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. It sounds good.
So then you'll have that.
Anybody have any thoughts on this process? We're cobbling together as we go.
Les, when can I distribute? I mean, the report's draft now. Can I distribute it to the planning board as a draft?
Yes, or I can do that tonight. I can send it to Rebecca and Alec if you like, and everybody will get it. Or you've got it, and you could do it now. I mean, people may get their mailboxes flooded, but.
Well, I want to understand the dates. Emily doesn't. I don't want to take her time for this discussion. I just want to understand, when do you want feedback? Because I'd love to give.
Oh, the feedback. Well, let's see. We're going to be meeting on the 16th of September. So first week of September.
Okay, so we could distribute it to the board, to at least.
No, I'm not holding back on sending this report. Yeah. This is just your feedback as committee members to us, so we can talk about it together on the 16th of September in terms of planning our next step and what we want to have a dialogue with Emily about.
Right, but if I'm just trying to, if would it be useful to get the board's feedback for this final?
Yes, yeah. Well, I'd like to give them as much time as possible without cramming it too much on the end. So I would just give it to the board right away, and invite them to weigh in.
Okay.
And then they could either collect it as a group and send it as a group, or send it to me and the other members individually. Whatever's convenient.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk about it with the board, but I'm not sure everyone will. I just want to give the board enough time. We've been slammed for
Oh, I know. That's why one reason I don't want to rush this, because I know how busy you've been.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. And as I say, I don't know. I didn't ask Emily if we have to slide it later because of all this. Is that going to cause you a huge pain, Emily?
No, I don't think so. As long as I think the doing a presentation at any time is fine. I'll say that. Just imagine within the, I know October, November, somewhere in there, I assume it will happen, and that's fine. It's more the, I want to make sure that we're not at this point doing big rewrites of anything, which I don't believe that we'll be doing, but that would be my only concern is having too much time for comments just to so we can get to an end point sooner. So that I don't mind whenever the PowerPoint or whenever I need to come to do the presentation, I'm happy to come do it. So if it doesn't happen till November, that's fine. We'll
give ourselves a goal of getting our collective input back to you right after our meeting on the 16th. Sure. But if the planning board is, up against the wall and they can't do it, we can slide it a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Better do it right,
Yeah. I would say as long as we get, with the October 27th date in my head, I'd say as long as we get all the every comment, every input, every recommendation sort of in something by the end of September, that should give us enough time.
That's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to do that.
So, great.
Brian Clemens, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Emily, if we also have some technical comments, should we get those to you like ASAP?
We're not.
As opposed to, I understand you're not expecting a lot of them, but you said if there's something glaring. But there shouldn't be any reason to hold off on that until our meeting. The meeting seems to be focused more on the big picture recommendation stuff, which we really can't do without discussing.
Yeah. No, I know. I just am trying to think in terms of our process of, guess you could send the comments if there's something like that. But most likely we're not going to go back into the report more than one more time to make all of these changes. So that's why that's the hesitancy. I'm trying each time we go back into a report and make changes. that's an effort, and an undertaking. So we're trying to just go back into the report one more time.
That would be fine, but this would at least alert you a little earlier if there were
Okay.
any issues that people had.
Okay, sure.
I mean, that's the process we've been using.
Yep. No, that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
But even though I don't know what Brian might be sending you, I'm still going to distribute this report now because it is a final draft and it's good enough for people to understand what's going on. Give us feedback. Give us their comments. That seem reasonable to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Well, okay, that's our plan. The public outreach, the main thing is we'll get scheduled to be at the select board target date, October 27th, right?
Yep.
And see if we can hold to that. If not, we'll do what we can.
All right. Sounds great.
Emily, we don't want to keep you up any longer than necessary. So
I've got to go get all my children to bed now. So
right.
They're keeping me up. It's not you. But
Okay. All right. Well, thanks
All
very
right.
much.
Have a good night, everybody.
Take care. Good night.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Brian, your hand's still up. Is that just because you didn't take it down, or do you have another comment?
No. That's
Okay. Okay. The next item is to review the minutes, 2 sets of minutes. One is July 15th, and the next one is July 22nd. Brian did distribute them. I think Cindy got a copy, may have gotten twice, because I think I already put you on the Water Resource Committee distribution, but I sent it out just for belt and suspenders to you and Sam. So if everybody's read the minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 15th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Hang on, Les. I saw a typo or two. I'm just going to bring them up. So you're on July 15th. Apologies. I had them up. Well, this is minor. I think my name was spelled wrong and there was something else. But,
that's not minor.
Thanks, Brian.
I have a difficult name myself.
Well, I am not the Markowitz that John is, although I know people think we're related. Let's see, which one was it? It might have been the other set. And then there was a word missing. I'm sorry, I'm not. Shoot.
Oh, I see where it's in number 4.
Yep, number 4C, and then there was a missing letter, Brian, where you were referenced. There was a missing sentence in number 6. Oh yeah, number 6 at the back end. The last sentence is Clements, whether or condominium associations. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, that should say asked.
Ah, got it. Okay.
Where are you talking about the misspelling of?
My name is misspelled in number
4 of July 22nd. Right.
July 15th.
On July 15th.
Yeah.
I apologize
4C.
for that, Cindy.
It should be Markowitz.
Yeah, it's on the July 22nd one.
So the first number 4 should be a number 3.
Oh, good point.
Okay. See, we're used to seeing both Markowitzes, so now I have to be really careful about which one we're referring to.
So again, saying it's Markowitz.
But you're
Correct.
talking about the meeting where the number 4 item was adjourned, right?
We're on to July 15th minutes.
July 15th minutes. I don't see you. Oh, there it is, Cindy Markowitz.
And number
Yep,
4
there it is,
should be
actually.
number 3, right?
I got buried. All right, there you are.
Yeah. And then number 6. I don't know. Is Brian keeping the minutes?
Yeah, he does that.
Okay.
He'll produce the final minutes. You send them to me, and I get them posted to the offices of the town clerk. What was the issue on number 6? I missed it in the discussion. Oh, we asked whether. Yes. Okay. Okay. And Brian, you have all those emendations to?
Yep.
All right. So we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion?
Wait a minute.
All right.
Who
Do a
moved
roll
and
call.
seconded?
Pardon?
Who moved and seconded?
John,
Brian Lynch moved.
no, John.
Oh, you seconded it. My hearing is terrible.
Cindy,
Have you got it now?
Cindy, did you move it?
I moved them, and I thought John Markowitz
And I
seconded
second
them.
it.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
Cindy and John then.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So now we'll do a roll call vote. Steve?
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Brian Clemens?
Aye.
Brian Lynch?
Aye.
Janet Connolly?
Aye.
John Markowitz?
Aye.
And Les votes aye. All right. Thanks very much for approving the minutes. The next thing here is that we really kind of talked about
We got
presentation for
one,
this.
we got
I'm
one
sorry?
more minutes left.
Oh, I'm sorry. We went right over that. I was looking at them both. All right. To entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 22nd.
So moved.
Oops, I see a typo. I see a typo. Should be 2025.
Anyone second that?
Right.
I did.
I didn't notice it before, but that should be July 22nd, 2025.
Right.
Question about, I don't know, Barbara Burt is she representing Boxborough News?
Barbara Bird?
Yes, I know
No,
she's.
Al Murphy is here.
No. Barbara's just an interested citizen.
Oh, okay. Okay, when you have somebody from Boxborough News, do you note that?
Right.
Well, it's Al Murphy. He's here for Boxborough.
He's here for tonight, but I guess at that one, there was nobody. Okay, I was just curious.
I don't think Barbara's on this call. I can't see her.
The only thing on those minutes was I didn't catch who seconded the motion to adjourn. I don't know if anybody recalls that.
Brian, did you get the date at the top?
Yep.
Okay.
And I thought it was Steve who seconded adjournment.
Okay with you, Steve?
Yeah, sounds like me.
Okay.
All right.
Did we move to accept? Sorry.
Yeah, no other comments, folks? All right, let's move to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Steve Schmidt,
Aye.
Cindy Markowitz,
Aye.
Brian Clemens,
Aye.
Brian Lynch,
Aye.
John Markowitz,
Aye.
Janet Connolly,
Aye.
and Fox, aye. Thank you.
I did not hear Janet vote on the other minutes.
I think she did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, she did.
All right, I only heard 7 ayes on that.
So beyond Weston and Sampson making a presentation at the select board meeting, we need to start thinking about what else we do to continue getting the message out and keeping interest up. So I know I don't have any answers tonight. But we need to do something.
Wes, can we get something put on the front page of the town website just as they have with the fire station and they have with 495. Just something to let people know that we're going to host a meeting to give the findings of our water resource study.
Yeah, that's a good idea, but maybe we should do it just a little closer to when we're going to be doing it. What do you think?
Well, I found, you remember when we did the master plan, we gave people like anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks notice, and then we continued to let them know about it.
Yeah.
So that they had plenty of time to adjust their calendar.
Well, we can do that. I mean, we don't know for sure that the October 27th date will stick. I mean, that's just a stake in the ground at this point.
Well, we could just put something that says, preliminarily targeted for late October.
We could do that. Boxborough News has a question.
Yeah, what's the message? I mean, we have an opportunity. I can put it in the news article. What is it?
Ralph can do it.
Yeah, they could do that for the news, right? The water resource.
I need to know the right message, though.
All I can say right now is that the Water Resource Committee hopes to be able to make a public presentation at a select board meeting in late October.
Regarding the comprehensive water report
yes,
that was
sorry,
conducted
yeah.
by Weston and Sampson, et cetera,
Right. I'll give you a couple of sentences, Al. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Thanks for thinking of that.
We'll also be producing some new information for further study.
Yeah. So item number 8 is we had a request from the Sustainability Committee. I think it actually came to us via the assistant town administrator. It looks to me like it was put together by an intern working for the Sustainability Committee. I don't even know who is the chair of the Sustainability Committee now that Francie's gone. But at any rate, it came at a bad time in terms of meeting schedules. I could not get it distributed to you folks before our last meeting, so I did send it around with a comment that they are hoping to have some comments back from the boards they sent it to. I did not prepare any suggested message. Brian Clemens, I don't know whether you were talking about maybe you do something. I don't know whether you did. But my impression of reading the report is it's very good timing for us because the main message of that climate action plan report is that you're going to improve communities' knowledge of water, got to work on community education, which is right in line with what we want to do. So I'm hoping that the Sustainability Committee can be encouraged to help us with the messaging, but I have no plans to actually do anything about it with them. And that's about as far as I got with their report. I don't know whether anybody else took a look at it or have any thoughts.
Can you forward that request to myself? And
yeah, you probably weren't on this list when I sent that. I'll do that.
Right. Kate Davies is I believe, the chair of the Sustainability Committee.
No, that's it. That's right. It didn't come from her. It came from Ian, I think, but I could be wrong about that.
My problem with the report is that they continue to characterize Boxborough as relying on private wells, and we need to conserve water. There's no mention about the study that we're working on and that we have much more up-to-date information than that. And I think that's a big oversight. I mean, water is a huge thing for climate, and they're just trotting out the same tired cliche about we rely on private wells.
Well, I think there's more to water than that, Brian. I think that we have the situation that says a lot of the drainage areas in town, based on climate information, could become more susceptible to damage on roads, culverts, crossings, flooding in certain zones that are not flooded now, due to the intensity of the water we see coming down in certain areas. And I think as that approaches here, we're going to be more affected by that. And I think those things are things that we should be planning for, and we should be looking to make safe.
I don't know if they got into that
We
specifically.
can move equipment around and do other things for emergencies.
Yeah, all that's true. But I would think some of that messaging might be coming better from the planning board or some other part, as opposed to the folks who are mostly focused on drinking water as a resource.
I think the message should be spoken by all.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. They had a survey they wanted people to engage. I haven't really had a chance to pay much attention to it, frankly. I'm probably going to get back to Ian and say, we might be able to do something by the end of next month, which would give us a chance to talk about it at our next meeting on the 16th of September. If it's a hard deadline, we might miss the deadline, that's all.
Well, I don't know if we want to hold a special meeting. I don't. Not after.
I don't. No, I
not
don't.
after
I
the
can't.
last one.
I'm way too busy the rest of this month, including my vacation.
Yeah, I
I-
would like to see the email. Like I said, I don't think the planning board was, at least if Rebecca got it, she hasn't circulated either. It sounds like they're looking for board input. I haven't heard about this yet either. So,
Oh, okay. Well, I will dig out the original mail and send it to you.
maybe we can all buy some more time if other boards haven't had a chance either.
Good point.
Yeah, they've already extended the deadline. It was the beginning of August originally.
Well, I think your point, I think, Brian, that you made is, or whichever Brian made it, I worry that we work in our own silos, and I'm really hoping that these kinds of things are, cross-board, inputted. So it is important that we all look at that and make sure the messaging is somewhat consistent, and clearly if they're not even aware that this water study is just being done, that's a really important point. So
I was prepared to submit comments individually if we couldn't prepare them. But let's let Les find out if the deadline can be extended. And if it
And
can,
if not, and then feel free to send in your comments as an individual.
I will.
Was it a thick report, or what was the nature of the document?
Oh, it's a 4-page survey kind of a thing.
Oh, I thought they're building the climate resilience plan now. They're creating one.
No, it's just a survey that they put together asking questions about climate awareness, I think, of what should be done. Oh, but I have it here. Wait a minute. I have it up. I can bring it up.
No, it's a 100-page report.
Yeah, that's what I think they're trying to prepare a report, and I think they.
Oh, you know what? I am looking at just then I completely blew it because I'm just looking at the presentation that asked for what we're doing. Hang on. Let me try to share.
It has about 90 pages. Looks like this.
I probably missed that in the report, in the email. This is the Boxborough Climate Action Priority Plan.
Oh, she had the folks from Tufts.
Folks from Tufts survey analysis, demographics of the survey, climate concerns and awareness. What are you concerned about with climate? Water resource management.
Stormwater management, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And
Although we defined the basins that we're subject to. Analysis of the stormwater stuff should be really looked at.
Is the planning office aware of the two efforts? This report that Water Resources is doing and the climate action plan. I mean, it really seems like they should be aware of each other.
I don't know.
Okay, well,
they're aware of what we're doing because
Yeah.
Weston and Sampson had to work with them.
Yeah. So then a little summary of what they've done. So, but Brian, I have overlooked the fact that there's a larger document that came in the mail with this thing. Sorry about that. I forwarded the mail directly. Did you guys not see it? Did you see the document that Brian's talking about?
No.
Huh. You didn't have to download it somewhere, Brian, did you?
I thought you did send it,
Send
but
it.
I may have got it through an agricultural commission email as well.
Well, I'll have to look at that again, but what I remember was that the email had this little report or presentation that I'm going through now, plus a cover letter inviting you to please respond to the survey. I could be wrong.
I think I had to actually go on the website to get it.
Well, I missed that completely. The website, meaning the website of the Sustainability Committee?
Yes.
I guess.
Let's see the survey and the documents.
Well, clearly I missed something that Brian has found a document that's that long, which says there's going to be more time needed to study what's expected for a response.
Yeah, I see the document online now. It looks pretty final.
Where are you seeing it?
From the Sustainability's website.
Oh.
So is part of the issue that they never asked us to comment on the plan itself?
I never saw anything. Did anybody else? I'm going to stop sharing this.
I mean, it looks like it's a complete document. It doesn't look like it's a draft. Well,
I got okay, hang on. I'm going back. This is the thing I sent to you folks. I sent to everybody except Cindy, because she wasn't on the committee at that time. I didn't forward this in time for our July meeting, blah, blah. Please review the climate action plan and be prepared to list. So I saw that. Sarah Martell, who seems to be maybe an intern or something. And it says, Dear Board or Committee Chairperson, the Sustainability Committee and the Office of Land Use and Permitting are seeking your feedback on the town's first climate action plan. The attached letter requests feedback, outlines the method to provide feedback, and provide you with greater context on the climate action plan. Respectfully request that you take it up, blah, blah, blah. 2 attachments. One is the thing I just showed you, and the other one is a local letter that just says, we're requesting feedback on 4 things, and they're providing materials, which is the full Tufts CAP presentation, Climate Action Plan presentation, and then a memo which provides context, and lastly, a survey where you can record your board's feedback. I don't see an actual plan anywhere. Cindy, you probably found it on their website.
Yeah, it's on their web. It's on the Sustainability website on the right-hand side. It's titled Foxborough's Climate Action Plan. It's partway down on the right.
This process is screwed up.
Under documents.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is get back to Alec and Ian saying that, it's come to our attention there was a survey we didn't know about, and so we're not prepared to respond right now.
No, there's a plan we didn't know about.
And yeah, a plan we didn't know about.
Yeah, like I said, planning board, it never came to our attention either, at least to my knowledge. But we might
I can't tell because this, I don't know. It's a blind mailing from Ian Wilson, who is our assistant planner, sent to Sarah Martell and to Alec. Unless he's blind copied some other people, I have no idea.
Well, it sounds like we should circle back. Yeah, circle back with the planning office maybe, and find out. Are they still looking for comments, or are they going to do a public presentation? I mean, I think would be interesting to know.
Well, I'm going to give them comments whether they want them or not.
It sounds like a plan.
Go for it, Brian.
All right, so I'll follow up and find out what's going on with that thing and let you guys know. So let's see, do we have any other reports? There's no, so Sam is not here, so we can't hear from the select board, planning board. Cindy, I didn't want to say anything of, as your report from the planning board. Since you weren't here last time, it's okay. I mean, but you might want to update people on things that are happening.
We finished our meeting at like 12:15 last night, this morning. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into. So we had 4 items on our agenda last night. 2 of them were the articles related coming up for town meeting. One was on the municipal use, and then the other was on the MBTA communities. The vote on the municipal use was to only bring forward 1 article by a 3-2 vote, allowing public safety, and when we agreed on the definition for public safety, and the article is to add it as a line item on the existing use table, and the proposal is to allow it by right in all districts. As I said, that was a recommendation at a 3-2 vote. So that appears that will be the only article brought on that issue to town meeting by the planning board. We will probably have a public hearing on another article that tweaks the limitation on building size in town center for public safety buildings. Proposals to allow just for public safety buildings to increase from 15,000 to 25,000 square feet by special permit from the ZBA. And for buildings in town center, because they right now have a limitation of 15,000 square feet in size. Presumably that was done when town center had a different vision to keep things at small scale. So that we'll have to post a separate public hearing because that particular item was not noticed. So we will have a hearing on that coming up. The MBTA communities under late night, I think we agreed on language. We will be putting forth a proposed district. It's up in the northern corner of town at the Littleton line. Basically includes the Meanmore condominiums and the other condominiums in front of Meanmore. There's about, I think, 5 or 6 parcels. There's a lot that went into the modeling for this, but we will be bringing forth basically the overlay district that's presumably in compliance with the town's, with the state's requirements. And again, we're a little bit at the mercy of the modeling, which we had a consultant assist us with. But the density, we're required to get a density of 15 units per acre. It's a little confusing because the modeling ultimately shows something a little bit less than that per acre, but the overall model works. We were required to zone for 118 units. The model has basically identified 164 units, and it's not 100% clear to me why that happens, but we are told that that is the number that we have to work with unless we kind of reduce the number of parcels. So the board is moving ahead with the plan as it is now. So we were required for 118. The model is showing 164 over these to meet the density requirements. So there'll be more explanation, I'm sure, at town meeting about this, but that will be the one MBTA community up for vote for October. And then the other 2 items we discussed were site plan review for a trade building on 975 Mass Ave, which is kind of across from the Tree Masters property. And the other, we had continuation of a hearing with Campanelli for their request to extend or amend or reissue the special permit for the park at Beaverbrook. They're proposing 667,000 square feet of new buildings, so over 5 buildings, and that hearing is continuing. So that was 4 items that we worked through last night. So we had a very long meeting to get through all that.
Yeah, very long.
How many buildings total, Cindy?
I'm sorry?
How many buildings total are they proposing now?
Campanelli is proposing 5 buildings. Basically, lot 600 is next to the it's next to the solar carport area there. If you're familiar with the park, it's next to the building 500. So that's sort of all part of that part of the campus. And then 700 and 800 a little further up the road. 700 is on the right-hand side. 800 has 3 buildings proposed, each of them at least 100,000 square feet footprint. And those are sort of or behind them are the Trail Ridge condominiums. So we did have some interest from the folks in Harvard at Trail Ridge, concerned about the proximity of those buildings.
So how many buildings total are they proposing, including the ones that already exist?
You're gonna make me do the math. I think it's about 1.2 million square feet. So I'm not sure I have my numbers 100%
originally
right.
they were approved for 10 buildings.
They were originally going to have 1.4. Well, there are 2 phases. The original, after the second phase, they were going to have 1.4 million square feet. Second phase never got built. So what they're proposing now, I believe, is on the order of 1.2 million square feet. So 667,000 of that is the new project. So they've got about 500,000 in there now, plus or minus. I did have a question for Les or for you guys at this point. One fact that I did learn last night was that out of the 65,000 gallons per day in the IMA, that the park was allocated 40,000 gallons. And I just wanted to run that by you guys. Was this news to you, or is this something you already knew? And does that leave sufficient, the 25,000 remaining gallons, for all the other customers? Is that something you guys had discussed, or I'm just curious as to, are you comfortable with that breakout, and everybody's going to get what they need? Just curious about that.
We haven't looked at it for a long time, but it seemed okay at the time. I have not gone back and revisited it.
They've indicated the betterments are going to be starting to kick in.
It sounded to me from what Russ was saying, this is a slightly different betterments model than I was expecting. It sounds like some part of the betterments fee is going to be tied to volume of water drawn, which I think means how big the pipe is that will be attached, but I'm not sure. Because ordinarily, the betterments are defined in law to be a portion of the capital investment to produce the benefit. So that's a capital investment point of view, not a water volume point of view. So they may be using some new model or a blend of models. I need to find out. I'm not sure about that. But the last time I talked to Matt Silverman, who was the water guy in Littleton, about when should we be starting on our betterments calculations or process to apply them to our tax bills. By the way, just the pipeline's not expected to come on the line or be finished until the end of 26. So sometime around that time frame, we need to be ready to get ready. So that's a lot of runway left yet. But at that time, which was a couple of weeks ago, Matt says we're not ready to actually do anything about it because we haven't finished tallying up all the costs, which are the thing that goes into what needs to be better. That's what the bottom line is. This is the cost. Here's what the betterment fee is based upon your share of that cost, which doesn't talk about water volume. So they're not ready yet to actually talk about total cost because they're still doing some discussions with some properties that are to be benefited or not. No, I guess they're all going to be benefited, but why would it change? I think the costs are tied. The uncertain costs are tied to that portion of the connection, which is not yet defined for all buildings. That's my guess. I'm not really sure about that.
Okay. Well, I know this wasn't a separate agenda item, but if it's okay for me to just continue.
No, you can bring it up now because
on Campanelli. So it was unclear to us up until recently that whether they were actually going to take the water from Littleton Electric, or they did a lot of work on their own well to mitigate PFAS.
That's good that he brought that up because I've been wondering that myself. What I heard, you can see what you heard, Cindy, that their plan is they will connect to the Littleton pipe, and that water will be dedicated to the buildings, the new buildings, and the existing well that has now been upgraded to treat for PFAS will be used to service the other buildings. So there's some division of where the water goes, but they're going to be using both sources. Perhaps Littleton water will go to the new buildings. I'm not really sure. The
Okay.
buildings that they're talking about permitting for the future.
All right, and that wasn't clear to me that they were splitting it out that way. But anyway, I just wanted to make you folks aware of that. And I
Well,
thought,
some split. So he definitely implied some split, some use of both sources of water. They treated water from their current well, which is a pretty large well, and then water from the Littleton pipe.
okay. Well, there was some discussion that maybe Littleton would take over their well at some point and do something
That's
with
between
it.
them, and that's a
Right.
private
So
conversation between private property owner and Littleton Water Department. We're not, at least I'm not privy to those conversations.
Okay, well, water balance and what the town is getting, I just thought that was something that you folks might.
Yeah,
wanna
the
know
water
about.
balance thing goes back to what they're permitted to deliver from the Littleton water system to Boxborough, and that excludes what they can pull out of the ground with the existing well.
Right. Okay. Anyway, that's kind of the summary of what the planning board's at.
Les, did I hear you say the water line wouldn't be complete until the end of 2026?
That's my understanding, yeah.
That's a year and a half from now.
Am I confusing the years here?
I think so, because the part.
Must be the end of this year, end of 25, right?
I think the part that goes
no.
across 111 is subject to the bridge work.
Well, remember, this pipe's not going to go across the bridge, but the bridge work is tied into all this.
It's the
Mass DOT, I don't think they've started to work in Mass Avenue to do that.
no, I don't know. I haven't seen some.
What you can do, and because I may get it wrong or be confused, it's a little obscure. I mean, they've been both ways on this. Littleton Water Department's website had a very prominent update section about this Boxborough water line project. And you have to dig a little bit to find it now, but they will have the schedule in there if you want to look for that. I will refresh my memory too.
Yeah,
I said 20.
Yeah, Mass DOT did cut across Massachusetts Ave this past weekend, I think.
Oh, they did?
Yep.
All right, there you go. The last I talked to Tara McManus at Weston and Sampson, who's the project engineer on that work, she implied it would be happening about that time, but I hadn't noticed any evidence of it myself. I haven't been down to the transfer station for a few weeks.
Yeah, they had white marks on the road the other Saturday last.
Okay. Wow.
Wait,
the hydrants are all showing up down Swanson and also on Codman Hill Road.
Yeah,
when you say tied into Mass Ave, what did you mean by that, John? I'm sorry.
So in other words, they did the cut across Mass Ave to connect the line. I don't know if they connected the line yet. I saw them cutting the pavement, and it looks like they've cut it and maybe dug the trench.
You're talking from Swanson to
Swanson
Codman?
to Codman, right?
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
That's where it changes from a 12-inch pipe down to an 8-inch pipe, I believe.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And they also did I saw them also cutting the connection to that office park that's right on the town border with Harvard.
Oh,
Executive Office Park.
Executive
Right.
Office Park, yeah. Yeah.
They're running a small diameter pipe up to there,
Yeah, it's only like a 1.5-inch line, I think.
something like that.
That was part of the salt mediation.
They had terrible problems with salt remediation. You heard the funny story I heard from DEP is that they had a RO system to clean up the water, but they had the discharge going right back into the wellhead area. So guess what?
Didn't work.
Didn't work.
They had sodium levels up around 1,000.
Yeah.
That's one of the lines.
Cindy didn't say one of the more amusing things that I heard at the planning board meeting, but they had actually a pretty sharp guy, it seemed to me, from MAPC walking them through this whole MBTA communities thing, which, Cindy, here's what I heard. This is kind of a messed up piece of legislation, but here's how we're making it work. We have a model that we tweak and things don't really line up, but we make it work. I'm exaggerating slightly, but it's a little bit of a house of cards, I think.
Well, they're trying to account for local limitations, and I think, they don't have the on the ground ability to really put in accurate, so they have to make estimates. And yes,
Yeah.
the data doesn't flow through their model the way they
It doesn't all
want
fit in
to.
it doesn't all fit with an Excel spreadsheet is what I go.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
that area of town is very poor soil drainage.
What area? Oh, up in Meanmore there?
Yep.
Well, the intent was to, because there's an existing water supply, which I believe we're told is served by Littleton Water already.
It is. It's been there since forever, since they built in Meanmore, right?
Right.
Doesn't change the nature of the soil.
But I don't know what the wastewater situation is.
Well, he says that's going to be a big engineering challenge. So,
They could put in their own wastewater treatment system, I suppose.
They would
they probably would have to. No, here's a question for you, Cindy. What are the total residential count within the affected properties of this new MBTA commuter zone? You said they allow up to 180. Well, that's residents, not population. What is the number? What's it going to look like then as opposed to now?
So Alec did the estimate, and I was a little surprised, but there's over 100 units there currently. There's I think 96 in Meanmore and another 36 or something. So I was surprised by that, but he was pretty certain that was correct. So, if those were to go away and we swap them out, we might be net positive by a few units, but that was surprising to me. But I was also, and it's not clear to me why the 164 has to be, but we are told it sort of has to be, because we're required to do 108 zone for 118. So I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that 164 is the number right now, and I guess we need to dig into it. But again, this was well after midnight last night, and we need to get our language together. So if you have questions about the model, you can either bring it to Alec or when it comes up between now and town meeting. I assume he'll do some more public education on it.
I don't know if the model takes into effect the limitations of the soil. In other words, there could be a lot of reasons that the soil up there.
This may be.
Oh, hold on! Can you let Brian finish?
Well, the soil may affect how much they can actually do up there.
My understanding of MBTA communities law is that you do not have to show that you have a viable source of water or sewer.
Correct. You're not required.
It's just a paper exercise.
Yes, I understand that. But what I'm saying is the actuality is Meanmore's septic systems have failed once already.
Yeah. What I don't know in the law is if you can't ultimately, with the real ground truth reality, when you get out there and dig, can't build what you showed in your plan, is there a penalty? What will the state do at that point?
I don't think they would do anything, because part of the thing, if you read deeper into it, it says unless there are environmental considerations meeting state criteria. So if they don't pass DEP regulation, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then to keep a close eye on that stuff. There's a lot of moving parts of it.
It's been a haul.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything for us from the CONSCOM?
The last meeting was 2 weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure there was nothing of interest to us. So I guess I don't.
Who is the chair of the CONSCOM now?
Oh, it's
My wife.
yeah.
Oh, it is Liz. Okay.
Liz Marcos. Yeah.
Liz is okay. Okay. And Brian Lynch, anything for us from the Board of Health?
Yeah, we're working on a new set of regulations about wells in town.
Yeah.
And we're going to require testing on transfer, and we're going to, any additional construction is going to require testing also to meet criteria.
Okay.
When are you going to start putting out that information?
Well, we're still negotiating what we're going to actually put on the paper, but we're following the model modified from Stowe.
So you're going to have a public comment period and all?
Oh yeah, we still have to have all that.
You know, when you do put that stuff out, I mean, last time when you did it for the septic, I sort of found it only circuitously. So again, I know we all have a problem in town getting information out, but the Board of Health if you guys could make a little bigger effort to put that out a little more widely, because I wasn't aware of the public comment for the septic until somehow I found it. But again, we need Foxborough News. We need all these kinds of things, as mundane as they are, really need to get put out there so people have a chance to read about it.
Yep. Well, we're going to be doing that. We're also we're developing a GIS-based model to try and locate as many of the wells as we can in town on properties.
Oh, what kind of a GIS or something?
GIS, yep.
Hmm.
There's work being done on that currently, and one of the things we're going to look to add to it is all the septic systems to be added from our as-built plans, so we know what's going on in property areas. One of the goals that we're talking about is that as we look at these, how should we say, clusters of development, would be to put in some sentinel wells that would then monitor the groundwater quality so that we would have some alerts if the levels that are required for drinking water are exceeded.
Well, that goes back to this. This committee started looking at back when we were still figuring out what to do, and we knew there were a lot of monitoring wells in town, but we realized they were fairly shallow because they were designed to look at effluent from septic systems and therefore didn't have any knowledge of deep water.
We're not looking at that. We're looking to install actual production wells quality and then pump them to see exactly what the water quality is going to show. So that's all this.
That'd be a whole different type of well than was previously installed. I don't think they were able to do anything with that, right? Getting records from the people who were on the list.
Well, I didn't. That was with the planning board, no offense, Cindy, but they're the ones who set up the things with the criteria for.
It was a condition on, a site plan approval, I think, right?
And I know at one time, Littleton Water was doing all that testing and reporting that to the town. What happened when Littleton's person or division that was doing that went out of existence?
Right.
It kind of fell through the cracks. I don't believe, and I know for a fact, we've looked in our records, the Board of Health has not received anything on those monitoring wells in quite a while.
No, I have all the original files if anybody wants them.
So that's, Brian, both those initiatives sound like good recommendations for Emily's report. We're talking about, future activities or action plan. I would love to see those bubble up, at least identify that it's been done, and then, it'd be good to resume it or whatever. But, that's a good discussion. I'd love the Board of Health to talk to the planning board about anyway, the monitoring wells, but the new well stuff that you're talking about would also probably fall under sort of an action item. If you're already doing it, that would be a good item to call out.
It's all part of what we're trying to do is make sure that we don't have, and again, we're more worried about water quality than we are quantity.
Brian, since you're here and we were talking about this topic, it reminded me that when I was looking through the Weston and Sampson report, in the appendix, it points out on page 144, they point out that the Aquifer Protection District and the Board of Health, I'm doing this from my crib notes here, the Aquifer Protection District and the Board of Health protections needed to be resolved or somehow adjusted, and it would be done at ATM 2025. And the comment from Weston and Sampson was, we don't know what happened to that. I think, Brian, that article never came to town meeting. We decided not to pursue that. Is that correct?
Well, my understanding is anything that would be done with a Board of Health regulation doesn't have to go to town meeting. We promulgate those things, we publish notice, and it becomes fact.
I don't. Do you remember this conversation way back when about?
No, because I mean,
because the APD would be a planning board thing, right?
Well, somehow, I guess because I don't know what
zoning.
Proposing, because right now the way our regulations are written, it covers both the IWPAs for public water supply wells, and it covers the Zone 2s that have been identified by study for the wells that are supplying water for like Acton and for Littleton, Boxborough at this point.
But I just remember seeing that item in the back in the appendix of the Weston and Sampson report. A bell went off and said, "Oh, I remember we had a discussion about this." Brian Clemens, do you remember this?
Yeah, I looked into it. I went to a Board of Health meeting. Jim Gareffi was there. He was making a comparison between the Aquifer Protection District and the Board of Health regulations. The Board of Health regulations are consistent with DEP regulations, but they do not apply. They apply to wells. They don't apply to the land.
No,
Whereas the Aquifer Protection District applies to the land.
Well, what I remember in my note, and I'm going to go check that whatever the disconnect was supposed to be resolved through an article to be brought at the ATM in 2025, but it was either passed over or never brought forward. So I don't remember. Does anybody remember what I'm talking about?
I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure the regulation that we proposed included both Zone 2s and IWPAs.
Right, but this is the town meeting action would be required to address the planning board issue.
Yeah, I had raised this issue and we sort of backburnered it because we needed to circle back with you folks. Brian Clemens had provided us some commentary on it, and I was trying to clean up some language based on, I guess I got to think back now, but when Littleton sent us a letter and sent the Board of Health a letter about Zone 2 and protections around the Zone 2 for the new well. Mm-hmm. I think that prompted us to start thinking about whether or not we needed to align our language in our zoning bylaw, our APD overlay district, with DEP regulations. And I think we got a little hung up because it wasn't always apples to apples. As Brian pointed out, there are lands that are in the APD that are not in Zone 1 and not in Zone 2. And anyway, it was my initiative. We decided to table it because I realized that we hadn't really covered all the things we would need to. So that's what that was about, Les.
Yeah, I had kind of forgotten about it, but when I saw it in there, it prompted me. Oh, that's right. We were going to do something about that, but the article was either never brought forward or it was passed over at town meeting.
Yeah, we passed over it because it felt that we weren't ready to bring it.
Yeah, right. That's what I remember, but I'd forgotten all about it. So that's what I know. I know nothing.
I kind of forgot about it too now that you mention it.
Again, I think part of the vagrancy of the thing is that the Zone 2 is a line that was prepared by a consultant for the water districts. Right. It was adopted by the state, but it is an amorphous line that just follows where the intended soil diagrams were laying out things. So if you said you had to go and mathematize that, I think that would be interesting mathematics.
I thought Zone 2s were a measured radius. It was the IWPAs that were guesstimated.
Zone 2s are an amorphous field that depicts where the recharge area is that's supplying water to a large public water supply well. An IWPA is just a circular line drawn to protect rock wells because the definition of what recharge is for a rock well is more based on the rock fissures underneath than it is the surfology materials.
Well, DEP defines a Zone 2 as a measured amount, 400 minus the flow rate times a factor. So there is
that's an IWPA.
No, that's a Zone 2 definition, I think, from DEP.
So if you look
anyway,
at there are maps supplied to us by both Acton and Littleton.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
I recall, the Zone 2 has to be defined with hydrological studies, including testing in the ground.
Yes.
Whereas the IWPA is a mathematical construct.
Right. I'm sorry, I had that backwards. You're right. Yeah.
And the Zone 2s are fairly consistent with the Aquifer Protection District mapping where they're located. But the Aquifer Protection District mapping is bigger than the Zone 2s.
Right, and that's why we were getting stuck on the language. Right?
Well, we were wrestling with this some time ago, and I've kind of lost track of. Do we need to do anything at this point about this, or has it been resolved satisfactorily? Or do
we have in place the zoning? No, not the zoning. I'm sorry. The Board of Health regulations cover both zones.
Right.
The big problem you have is an aquifer protection area would be areas that were not defined as actively contributing to the 50-year drought cycle for the well. so that they have a little bit definition difference that says, yes, there's more sands and gravels further up, but they may not be defined as the zone 2 as the definitive study allocated.
Right. And my intent was to try and be as protective, I guess, as possible. If the APD is, which is the biggest area? If the APD is the biggest area and we've already got protections and we have prohibitions in the table on our overlay district, which you can't put in there, then that may be fine as is. I guess that's what I was trying to understand. But if there is zone 1s and zone 2s that didn't line up with the APD, then some of the protections in the APD, did we want to expand that in some way? That's what I was trying to marry up. But
the zone 2s are a definitive study that was done for the water company that's supplying that or using that water well. And those are all done with geohydrologic work and all the other stuff.
Right.
Pays somebody like a Weston and Sampson to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to meet certain definitions as to how far out they go. And all of that stuff is part of what they look at. So you can actually have sands and gravels that may not be in the zone 2, but they're out there for the next level kind of thing.
Well, this is kind of turning over a rock that's been left undisturbed for a while. But the point is, we were worried about an inconsistency then. Do we care now? Is there any work here that we need to put on our plate going forward? Or
I think if you define your overlay district for zoning would be any sand and gravel deposit. And in Beaverbrook Valley, those at one point were defined because when I was on the planning board, we had big mining operations going on, removing gravel from out there.
Yeah.
Well, we've digitized our aquifer protection district, so you can now see where the APD is. And I guess, again, what I was trying to do was marry up the language to protect. It's basically to be as protective as possible of all our water sources, right?
I don't know that DEP could enforce that language on areas outside of the identified zone.
Right. So the question is, who would enforce it? If it follows a planning board definition of APD, who would be the enforcing agent?
It's the ZBA.
So the enforcement officer. Right?
Well, the ZBA is responsible for granting variances on the prohibitions in the zone 2. It might not be worth digging into again. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not articulating it exactly. I have to go back to that letter that Littleton Water identified, but it felt like there were some inconsistencies, but that might be purposeful and might, like you said, might be a rock we didn't need to turn over.
Well, Cindy, to me, this is a very low priority thing, but since it's a planning board thing, if you think it's worth getting into, why don't you come back and let us know sometime? Right now, I've kind of put it out of my mind.
Yeah. I'll dig up the letter from Littleton and look at it again. I mean, Brian, the Board of Health got a letter similar, so.
And Brian Clemens looked at it quite intensively at one point.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian's good at it. He's pretty good at looking at that stuff.
Brian wrote us a nice comment letter.
I think to remember that the Aquifer Protection District is protecting superficial sand and gravel aquifers.
Yeah.
Right.
We have no protections for bedrock wells.
Just the
Right.
EPA, that's it.
But if you install a bedrock well, no matter where you are, it will have an interim wellhead protection area that will be subject to Board of Health
Right.
regulations.
Correct.
But there's nothing until you build the well.
Right.
So a great many bedrock wells in town have no protection.
No, they all even private wells in the town are subject to an IWPA.
Are they?
Well,
Yes.
that's not mapped though, right? We don't see it on our.
Oh, you see it. This is where one of the things gets real fuzzy. Why we fought long and hard to try and get a bigger lot size,
Mhm.
because around all the private wells, there's at least 100-foot radius, assuming it's only providing water for a 4-bedroom house.
Right.
And that radius doesn't necessarily fall all within the lot that well is serving.
Mm-hmm.
So there's many radii that go across roads. They go onto neighbors' properties.
Yep.
And some of the, we'll say the gerrymandered lots that we've seen in the past, the actual radius from one house may actually go all the way up almost adjacent to the foundation of the house in the next lot.
So it doesn't get the protection that a zone one of a public water supply gets, right? And that's what you're saying. Is there something?
Well, it's a protection that says there has to be some care given as to what they can do in that radius. But as time goes by and the homeowner does what they want to do anyway, there's nobody watching the store.
Right. Nobody's paying attention to what's going on with private wells, right?
Yeah.
But the Board of Health regulation maps the interim well pad protection areas that are covered, and it doesn't include those.
But only for public water supplies, right?
No. For everybody's water supply.
Okay.
Every well in town has an IWPA.
But the mapping doesn't show that, right?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be what would it be typically? It'd depend on the volume and 3-inch well, right?
Well, it depends. Number one, a lot of the stuff is done for homes, and it's based on the number of bedrooms and the water draw from them. But for the most part, it's usually a 100-foot diameter circle around the well.
I wasn't aware that they applied to the private
Yes, they
well.
do. They apply there. And as a matter of fact, that's why when I asked the question of Weston and Sampson about when the housing is over on property that is part of the zone 2s for public water supplies, our obligation is that there's very strict limits as to how much nitrogen and other stuff can be allowed to flow into that groundwater from that septic system. And that's why I also said earlier that there are some houses in this town that actually have their own individual treatment plants because they have to meet certain criteria for that water to go in the ground. And all of that is all in the mix of what's out there. So it's a very, how shall I say, complex process in some cases where developers decided they wanted to put houses versus what the other parts of the town were using that water under that land for.
Well, this kind of brings to mind the situation, for example, in Boxborough Meadows, where they have a wastewater treatment plant for everything, but each little house lot has its own well, and they're all very densely packed. And I think, Brian, you told me that when they somehow got that passed, and DP was not happy, and they took some steps, I don't know what they were, to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. Well, allowing small wells to be packed too closely together in a small area.
That's one of the drawbacks of 40B, that, you know, they were all written by folks in Boston that assumed everything was accessing MWRA or public water.
Right.
But if you take a 5,000 square foot lot and you put a well on it, and you put another well on another 5,000 square foot lot,
But didn't the Board of Health have to approve those wells?
Well, we have to approve them because the lot size is fixed by the 40B criteria that says the minimum lot size in the state is 5,000 square feet.
So you had to approve them? I mean, it sounds like you guys would have authority over the.
You'd have to prove the water was tainted before you could not approve it.
Interesting. All right. Well, I think, you know, let's all look into it, but I mean, I'm a little burnt out tonight, but I think.
No, I don't even want to bring this up, but put it on the way back burner.
Yeah.
Well,
I wouldn't have even thought about it, except Emily captured that in the appendix to the report. So.
Well, that's why I was sort of want to circle back. Maybe if there's a recommendation, maybe that comes about this issue. You know, I don't have the bandwidth to really think about it. I have to read the report. But
I think that if you consider your overlay district to be representative of the sand and gravel in the area, that's okay. And the defense would have to come via the zone 2s that say, you know, there's certain restrictions. But again, that's also defined by DEP's criteria for what designates a zone 2.
Right.
So I guess what I was saying was the things that are prohibited in the APD don't exactly match up with things that are prohibited in the zone 2.
Right.
And does that feel comfortable to you guys? Because I don't know how to evaluate that.
I guess the problem comes down, Cindy, what can you enforce? In other words, we can enforce the DEP's regulations on zone 2s, and the DEP will help us do that. If we get into the aquifer or the sand and gravel that's beside it, but it's not in the zone 2, that becomes more of the town's problem.
Right. It's in our bylaw, right? It's a town bylaw.
Right. Yeah.
So
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 that's,
there will be areas where both boards have jurisdiction, and there will be areas where only one has jurisdiction,
correct.
and there will be areas where neither have jurisdiction.
And I think that was the point of your letter, Brian. And I guess I didn't know whether, we may not have a problem, but maybe you guys can help me figure out if we do have a problem, or Emily's report can help us figure out if we need more protection. That was really the intent, was, are we doing enough? So,
Well, I think this discussion proves only one thing, that I actually looked through the report and saw the appendix and scanned it, and I picked that up and said, whoa, I remember that. What happened? So,
yeah. Well, like I said, maybe we can talk about this again, but I don't have the bandwidth.
when you have more bandwidth, it's nothing urgent, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Well, I'll read the report. Maybe that'll prompt some.
It's just in the appendix. I'm not even sure it has a reference to something in I think actually it's there because I think Brian had it in one of his inputs, and she was just responding to that. But take a look at it.
Yeah, thanks.
It's on page 144 of the report.
Right. Appendix C, not D, although
I don't know.
that threw me. Okay,
that's
thank
right.
you.
Here's Beaver Brook on the eastern side of town in the report too, and I noticed it was a little bit off.
Oh,
Okay, good Lord. I think we've gotten to the bottom of this, or possibly below. So, all right. So, is there anything else to talk about tonight, or is it time to entertain a motion to? By the way, next meeting will be on the 16th of September, as I said earlier. Other than that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second.
Let's vote. Steve,
Aye.
Brian Clements,
Aye.
and Brian Lynch,
All right.
Sandy Markowitz,
aye.
John Markowitz,
Aye.
Jana Connolly.
Aye.
He's hanging in there, and Les says aye. Thank you all for hanging in there, folks.
Okay, good night.